At 7 o'clock on a sunny Sunday morning, I set off on the 3-hour drive to Kaeng Krachan National Park. I had Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band live at the Main Point 1975 on repeat, on repeat, on repeat. Awesome album. By the time I reached Khao Yai, where I first rock climbed over 10 years ago, it had already started raining quite heavily. As I approached Kaeng Krachan, it was clear that there'd been a lot of flooding over the last few days, and the rain continued. I crossed over the Phetchaburi River, whose flow is now controlled by the Kaeng Krachan Reservoir just up above, and then past the little mechanics shop where Mike and Dan and I had stopped to get a puncture fixed in Mike's rear tyre on one of our cycling trips around here last year. The steep incline up to the flat road on the top that looks over the reservoir certainly wasn't as difficult in the Pajero as it had been on the bikes last year, especially after we'd just knocked back a few Leos with the mechanics. And then, after a lovely early lunch on the shores of the reservoir at my favourite restaurant, I think I had fish again, I was ready to move on and into the national park itself. I'd set myself the target of spending exactly 24 hours in Kaeng Krachan National Park, just enjoying camping, being there, and photographing what I could. And it was just so good to be back amongst nature again. I passed the beautiful little lodge where I managed to photograph the orange-bellied flower pecker a year or so ago, and I thought I saw Kun Samian and Kun Oi standing there in the entrance. Wonderful people and a beautiful little place. As I passed through the checkpoint into the park, the rain picked up again. I stopped next to the first little lake in the hope of seeing something and saw a black-headed kingfisher, but I was unable to get any shots before it flew off across the lake again. Rather than spend time that I wanted to stopping all the way up to the campsite, I decided to head straight there and at least get the tarp up while the rain was letting up, so that I'd be able to get my tent up later on, even if it was chucking it down. I was the only person there at the campsite at Ban Krang, and rather than decide to pitch the tent over on the lush grass, I decided to put it underneath the trees to get a bit more cover from what I expected to be a torrential rainstorm that night. The heavy rains of the past few days had really swelled the river, and the first crossing, although not particularly difficult, was clearly higher than usual. However, it was the second river crossing which I was worried would pose problems, because it can be deep at the best of times. With the water level above the bottom of the doors and the exhaust pipe underwater, I did have to go through slowly and carefully, but it wasn't a problem, and I needed to get to the other side in order to get to the good birding area. I parked up and headed through the jungle to the stream side in the hope of seeing either a kingfisher or a pitta. Wildlife photography really is a game of patience. I sat there for over an hour and I didn't see anything at all. I decided to push on past the third stream crossing, up towards the final barrier which blocks the route up to Penuntum, which was still closed at this time of year. And as usual, I managed to encounter some beautiful butterflies on the way. As I crossed over this part of the stream, I again kept my eyes open for the possibility of crab-eating mongooses, which can sometimes be seen up there along the side of the stream. Where I was going they had also been spotted many times, so I kept my fingers crossed. I looked for animal prints in the soft mud, and both looked for and listened for birds, but with the noise of the river in spate, I couldn't hear anything anywhere. It wasn't really a problem. This trip wasn't really about seeing or photographing anything. Anything would be a bonus. This was more about getting out of Bangkok, just being able to spend some time alone in nature. Because this wasn't any particular Sunday. This was the 23rd of October, and as well as being Chulalongkorn Day and my own wedding anniversary, it was exactly 1 year since the death of my mum. I needed to get out of the city. I needed to be in nature, and I needed to be alone. And Kaeng Krachan, I felt, offered the perfect opportunity for that. I was here to think, look back on things and reflect. Just really spend some time alone in nature. Come down to the water to try to see a little three-toed kingfisher, which somebody had seen around this area about 5 hours ago, and maybe even a blue-eared pitter which hung out near the water all the way up this part, but instead I've caught a whiff of big wild animal. And unlike Kauai, where I decided to head for the raw, if there's a smell of something sitting lying in the bushes, the light's starting to fade. Plus in the jungle it's never easy seeing anyway, it's always quite dark. The light's not good and my eyes aren't great. And whatever it is, It'd see me before I see it, unless it's an elephant, but it'll hear me. I think we'll move on back down, and because I've got another river crossing to do in the very deep part. Yeah, that smells strong. Probably a bear. I don't think it'll be a cat, although the leopards are up this part. This is where they get spotted up anywhere up this stretch as well. A very strong smell though. Right, here we go. Absolute child's play. I know what I was fretting about. Seeing two-wheel drive trucks and other vehicles spinning like mad just trying to get up that last part, even when it's not that deep. Piece of piss for the Pajero. Good alliteration there. Right. Time to mosey on down. Further down, look for elephants in the tower. Out. Out-ish. Out. Definitely something in there. Barking. It doesn't sound like a barking deer though. Although the barking deer or the muntjacs, they do come down and drink at this watering hole. And the gower. I've been lucky to photograph them both here. didn't sound barking enough for a while. It did sound more like a barking deer that time. Much as I wanted to stay there in the hope of seeing either gaur or muntjac, or even better a leopard coming out taking a gaur or a muntjac, it was starting to get dark, and I still had to put the tent up and make some food, so I decided to head back to the campsite and see what tomorrow would bring. Well, that's the tent this morning. Pretty much the quagmire. I've never been to Glastonbury, and I doubt very much now that I will ever go to Glastonbury. But if I ever do go to Glastonbury, I've got a feeling that it'll look a bit like this. It'll be smellier though. So it chucked it down during the night, absolutely chucked it down of course, which was, yeah, that's fine. It was alright in the tent, completely dry with my nice top set up, everything outside is obviously a real mess. So I slept in a little bit longer. I'd set them on for 4:40, but it was pitch black and it was absolutely torrential, so I mean I couldn't get up and make an early coffee really, and there was not much point in heading out in that. So it's after 6, I didn't wake up till after 6, just before sunup, I suppose it's sunup time, and I haven't even made a coffee yet because everything was so wet out the front. I'll make it in the back of the car. So I'm going to drive down the road, see if we can see any elephants or gaur, or even a leopard. But there'll not be any birds out for a while, not with this. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. And then it looks like it'll flare up. The sky behind me is a bit brighter. And then hopefully get another chance to see kingfishers and pitters and maybe broadbills. The day is my very wet oyster. Not much out, but I can hear some pied hornbills in there. Well, I didn't get a chance to photograph those hornbills, but not the end of the world. But oh, that's nice. There's a kingfisher. It's just a white throated one. But it's in a lovely position. I've just got a shot. I'll try to stalk it a bit closer. It's on the there. I can't think of this one, but basically it's on the top of that tree, dead tree there. They typically are. Oh, lovely. The rain returned, first as a drizzle and then turning into full-blown rain, so I decided to head down in the car and maybe stop at some of the watering holes on the way, see what I could see and hope that it would fair up. And then, just down the road as I rounded a corner slowly in the car, there was a huge beat of wings in front, and a bird flew up in front of the windscreen, right in front of me. And luckily it landed up there on a branch just in front to the right, and I was quickly able to get the window down and get the camera out of the window. I didn't dare open the door in case I frightened it off. Just got this balanced on the wing mirror of the car because I was driving along and it just flew out right in front of me, then headed up onto this branch about 50 meters away there, less, no, 50 meters. It's backlit, but you can see him clearly there. Same one that flew out right in front of me yesterday, right in front of the car. I'm just getting some video here rather than taking any stills because it's not a stunning shot there. I've got a better one of them before. Beautiful crested serpent eagle. Gotta love them. After a short time the serpent eagle slowly flew off further down the road, but I followed it and I saw it perched on the top of a dead tree. As I was getting set up and getting a shot, waiting to get some video of it as well, it was very atmospheric, I heard the familiar helicopter-like whoosh of wings, and I saw 3 great hornbills over to my right. Unfortunately they weren't in a good position on a tree further up in front of me. I scanned to the right and realised that if I could climb up the very steep and wet and slippery bank side, I'd get a better vantage point. For some reason I didn't take the tripod, I think because I thought I would fall over. So I headed up quietly in order to get on the same level of these beautiful birds and see if I could have a good chance of photographing them. Absolutely everything that could go wrong with the video went wrong. I was slipping and sliding, I couldn't find anywhere to perch the camera. Eventually I managed to find a dead tree and get the camera and the lens wedged in there, but it was still wobbling around. It was also wet, the lens was really wet, and I'd started to take water into it. It was beginning to stick, and the autofocus wasn't working properly. What a nightmare. My glasses were steamed up, slipping off my nose. I was slipping down the hillside, and I was desperately trying to get the focus on the birds there for the video. But I completely ballsed it up, and that would be an understatement. I went back down after they moved across slightly, and I hoped that they'd be in a better position to get a good vantage point from the road. The lens was still sticking a bit, but I got it onto the tripod in the hope of getting more video footage. I had managed to get a couple of shots of these 2 birds in the trees though, and hoped that they would be okay. Better get the video because the next one will fly as well any second. Better get ready. There we go, where's he gone? Oh, just missed the flight shot, I think. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. The remaining 2 great hornbills eventually flew off further into the forest, joining the other one that had flown off a bit earlier, and I was left with the sound of the frogs and the birds chirping in the trees. It was a real symphony of noise. Very loud. That was just incredible. I stopped here when I saw the serpent eagle come over and was getting shaky footage of that. And then I walked up the road a little bit to photograph the Asian fairy bluebirds and whatever else was in that tree. And then I heard the whoosh, and then the great hornbills came over and went in the tree. Obviously I walked up the bankside first, tried to get some shots, came back down to get the tripod and get the vlogging camera, and I didn't have quite such a good vantage point, but it's just incredible. And then the two of them flew off. There were three actually. I don't know if the first one went when I was turning around and looking at something. There were two parents and a juvenile, and they've moved further off, but oh, absolutely phenomenal. What a fantastic morning, all before breakfast. Oh, brilliant. So I might sit tight around here a bit longer. I don't think they'll come back. I might make myself a coffee in the back of the car because it's drizzling again. But oh, that was just spectacular. Oh. Just didn't get the flight shot though. Faffing between getting a shot or getting video on that one whilst trying to do the vlogging on this one, and I missed the flight shot. Well, not the end of the world. It gives me something to look forward to next time, seeing as that was the first time I've got decent shots of the great hornbills. Oh, what a great morning. Thoroughly content with the morning despite the bad video footage. I boiled some water and made myself a coffee. Sat back there on the back of the car and looked around. I admired the beauty and the sounds, and thought to myself that 24 hours really is enough time to have a thorough, enjoyable experience in Kaeng Krachan. It really was just what I had needed.